And we are ready for a few more games.
I'm expecting him to come on with some really strong opening prep. Now, it feels like it's now or never. If the trend continues, if he keeps suffering as black, when will it end? I think 1+1, that's even more important to survive the opening. And here he's deep analysis mode, it feels like.
David, I feel like in the past, he has done puzzle rush on the breaks. He hasn't analyzed his previous games as much. And that gives me some cause for concern, because it was 6-4, and Hikaru's score hasn't moved in 3 games. Alireza has gotten on a roll here almost by like no will of his own in some ways. It's almost feeling like Hikaru's just, like I said, trying to find the footing.
Yeah, it feels like he's helping a bit with the foundations. Alireza still great killer instinct, but he's setting him up, Hikaru. And you're right, it just feels like he's not trusting himself as much as normal. Maybe overthinking Hikaru Nakamura. It is going to be about the tactics and scrambles. It's not going to be necessarily just the openings, but it feels like that's what he's locked in on right now as we get ready to go again in the 3+1.
I think he's got to be within 2 in the bullet. Like if he's 3 games down going into bullet, it's completely impossible. But that's not going to be so simple. We're going to have to see some opening adjustments.
Here we go. It's back to e4, e5. That is not Alireza Firouzja. There we go. He appears again. And it's the anti-Berlin. A quick bishop for knight exchange. Hikaru at least is changing the pawn structure, creating some imbalance. And this move, not the most popular, is aimed at getting rid of black's bishop pair early. I like it. He's had some great results in this pawn structure, even against the likes of Magnus Carlsen back in the day.
H3, a nice move. Nothing can go to G4 anymore. There's also positions you could consider G4. You could really consider it. Playing it is a whole nother story. White plays a lot of these improving moves. Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks to like 2020, 2021, even 2022. I feel like Hikaru and Magnus were really exploring a lot of these positions in the anti-Berlin and the Berlin and so on and so forth. So curious what's going to come out of this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a waiting game. Like, white now doesn't really want to castle kingside because black will go the other way and then launch some pawns on the kingside. If white goes queenside, maybe black would launch some pawns. It feels like neither side wants to commit. And there we go, still waiting. And now an exchange of bishop for knight, back to almost symmetry in terms of the pawn structure. But Hikaru waits. He wants to play b4, and that has been stopped.
And I guess, does he also want to play bishop c3, or he's more than happy to just leave the bishop on d2 and just sort of, yeah, castle?
Mm-hmm. I was wondering if he might put the bishop on c3 and kind of continue waiting for black's king to commit first, but now Alireza wants to play it a bit safer. Makes sense. He's up on the scoreboard. He's got black.
How crazy is g3, knight h4, knight f5? g3, king g2, knight h4?
I like it. I think g3 is a great kind of useful move anyway, just to improve the king, and knight h4 definitely on the radar.
By the way, you might just be forced into playing something like that because you're going to run out of moves pretty quickly. Now, f6 by black would be a disaster because you would play knight h4 for free and get a completely amazing position. Or so it would seem. And there's g3. Okay.
Great call, Levy. The knight might be coming. Well, maybe he's just going to advance the king. He's waiting. King to g2, there we go. Just small improvements here. But the queenside pawn structure favors black now. This white pawn, the only way to defend it later might be to push forward, but that will create some further weaknesses. I do like what Alireza's been doing.
I was thinking knight h4 and maybe even trade the queens, but black playing g6 is just going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Controlling the knight, that's definitely the solution. At some point, black might just drop the bishop back as well to e7, with or without g6. Looks very stable, looks very equal for now.
Maybe you can reposition the knight to the e3 square. Mm-hmm. Double the rooks. Rook to d2, rook d1.
Makes a lot of sense. We'll see that. Yeah, at least Hikaru is playing a bit quicker. I think he's told himself he has to use the clock as a weapon, just as he was doing a bit earlier. And there we go. As predicted, knight to b6 is a bit of an awkward question. Okay, transition. Pawn trade.
Now, in the long run, is the 4-on-3 Berlin structure for black better than the 4-on-3 structure for white? I don't really think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the eternal dilemma of these structures. You get it in the Berlin, the Scotch, black with some doubled pawns. Can't create a pass pawn, but actually, with the pawn on b5, for example, there we go. The knight is cemented, the bishop looks nice. Very hard for what the white pieces to move, with the queen still on the board.
Yeah, purely on structure, maybe not so impressive, but the knight on c4 causes a lot of problems. It's really difficult to move. Hikaru's trying to move, and apparently already a potential misstep.
Yeah, the problem is you can never really play f4, as that would only loosen up some squares in the white camp. Knight f5 does look quite nice, though. Even if it is just a one-dimensional hit for now, it does tend to be the type of move that scares the opponent, and he's going to try and trade off bishops. I think Alireza Firouzja here, great call. White's bishop was nice and stable, holds the queen side, looks at the king side, bishop f6 next.
He allows knight f5, but it doesn't matter. Because like you said, Hikaru's position might be falling apart soon. Hikaru's had some time advantages for sure. Both of them really have, that end up fading at a couple of critical moments. So now there's this call here, like, what do you play? Do you play rook e1 and try to play e5, but then bishop h4, so you don't have time to do everything.
Yeah, big decision. The knight feels like it has to move. I don't think he wants to allow this shattering of his pawn structure. But knight f5, bishop f6, once the bishops disappear, how to hold this pawn.
Oh, he just goes for it, huh? c3?
Hikaru looked away there as if he'd missed something. Does he want b3 just to sideline the knight? But can you actually catch it on the edge of the board?
Maybe some b3 and rook d1, like super computer-like idea, you know, and then get the rook to the other side. That actually doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, I think he's forced here to do something like that. Pawn to c3 would just allow the black rook to come in. That's a secondary threat, as well as the pawn on b2 hit.
You could also maybe just, okay, yeah, he goes b, yeah, now, interesting.
Ooh.
Okay, materialistic. He's trying to get the pawn back immediately.
Yeah, c2 might fall, but a4 is the most important pawn to pick up.
He can't lose. He can't lose 4 games in a row.
But he is on the defensive side. I don't think black is ever losing this position. Hikaru just needs to knuckle down now, hold at any cost. Oh, it's still going to be torture. I think with queens off, he's got great chances, especially if the white rook lands. But for now, still a long, long way from a draw. Magnus regularly wins these types of positions. Queens and rooks with an extra pawn marching down the queen side. Can Alireza do the same? For now, white is holding e4, but black's so active. This is going to be a tight one. Alireza's up on time. 49 seconds against 23. Can Hikaru hold? Can he get the queens off at the right moment?
Yeah, queen. It's going to be potentially like a 100-move queen endgame is where this is headed.
Not sure who that's good for. Oh, he allows the black rook to block the file now, and there is a pawn hanging in the center here. Given a question mark, the blue arrow appears. Hikaru's just blundered another pawn. He can take on c5, but the 100-move queen endgame might not even last that long. Black's got an outside pass pawn. White's pawn structure would be ruined. Now 2 pawns down.
Yeah, this is devastating, and he's down to 5 seconds.
This feels like a deadly pin, though. The white rook is almost paralyzed, immobilized for eternity. Something along this diagonal, surely the black rook just needs to get out the way, move, and come in to attack the white rook. c4, rook d3 is almost a pre-move now. You can give a check first. The rook's going to go back to d3, trade off the rooks, and the black c-pawn's going to decide. Alireza's going to get a 4th win in a row.
Yeah, 4 wins is absolutely crazy. Wow. There's no more checks.
Does he have to worry about this, or can the black king just start running away? Is d2 winning? He does believe he can escape here. That looks correct. And there we go.
Wow.
Alireza, 4 in a row.
Alireza Firouzja has